Yeah, well,
So.
I'm joining that Navy.
So we're gonna have tattoos and hookers and cocaine. So, all right. Well,
Right. Pierce nipples.
I have to use this for the outtakes.
On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, the T91 Project is done. The AR pistol build is very loud. Jim Acosta gets the boot, and the Hedge Hog makes an appearance.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Marky and Freeze, and this is episode, is it 114 of the John1911 Podcast? Do you know, Freeze?
I think it is 114.
Okay, good, because I'm driving and I'm not in front of a computer, and I just have to go by a sequential note, from the last one. So,
yeah, I believe the last one was 13. So.
Okay, so because I know I screwed one of them up, so I've been real cognizant to not do that anymore. So
yeah.
Well, there's been a lot going on. I don't know. Do you want to start with the fun stuff, or you want to start with the news? Because we can't go long. This has to be a fast one.
Let's start with the fun stuff, because the news is I'm so newsed out from the past 3 days.
Oh, see, you sat and watched the midterm results, didn't you?
See,
I don't do that shit. I never do that because
I'm off this week, so I've been sitting in front of the computer for about 12 hours a day doing work and watching news and news updates and, so I'm newsed out.
Okay. Well, okay. So on the fun stuff, the T91 project is completed. Taiwanese Republic of China T91 rifle. So we took it over to the 07, and he got it turned around pretty quick. I got to give it to him. He's banging some of his stuff out fast.
He did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, a couple highlights, I guess we will discuss. I think you and I talked about it off pod. So, there were a couple of issues during the build, and then there were a couple of possible issues that we have to address going forward. So, the issues during the build was, look, he's never done a T91, and I've never done a T91, so he basically jumped into this. Off of what I told him. And we've all operated from the assumption that it's basically an AR-15 lower. And so we contact T91 Tactical, bought all these parts. They bring them in from Taiwan. We got an 80% lower receiver, 80% piece of metal that he could, he had to manufacture into a firearm because he's an 07. So he's a manufacturer.
It is about a 50% lower receiver, but go on.
Yeah. It had Chinese markings on it and some numbers.
It was a block of aluminum with Chinese markings.
He may have had to remove more metal than what's left in the receiver. So,
he might have. I mean, it was pretty much of a billet.
Oh man, he had to hog that shit out. So the first issue he ran into is the safety selector on the T91 that they're bringing in from Taiwan. It's a full auto selector, and I didn't think about it. He didn't think about it. I mean, as soon as he saw it, he obviously thought about it. But the problem is, we're trying to set this up as a semi-auto gun. And it's got this full auto selector. And the way that the drum is cut in the selector, there's extra grooves in it. I'm really oversimplifying this because I'm not an AR armorer.
But all these AR guys out there will know what you're talking about.
So you have to do, quote, slight modifications to this drum to, make it work. As a semi-auto, and it won't work as a full auto because it doesn't have the sear pin, the sear in the third hole and all that shit. So it's not it's not full auto. The problem is, as it sits from Taiwan, is it's got a lot of play in how it mates up to the other parts. So it can slide back and forth. And so you can have issues when you're activating or deactivating the safety or pulling the trigger. You can have it actually, I swear he told me, you can have it fire releasing the trigger. You could have it fire putting it on safe or because it's all jacked up.
Yeah, it's kind of basically like a messed up binary trigger.
Yeah, kind of. But he looked at it, he was filing on it, and at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, fuck this. He just dropped in a GI trigger,
and you know what? That's the smart money.
Yeah, because I'm paying him like it's an hourly rate, and we're burning the hours on this, and it's a lot of time to spend on a goofy ass select.
Well, I hate to pay some guy 4 hours to jack around with this when you can drop in a GI kit for in 5 minutes
for the retail price less than what cost an hour of him. So but he postulated, he goes, I bet you that the T91 lower doesn't match the AR-15 exactly. He says, he was explaining why. He says, this doesn't match up 100%. He says, there's some differences here. And I think that explains the movement. But the thing is, when he built the lower, when he finished it out, it's just bang, 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 mill for AR-15.
Yeah, he basically milled it out as an AR-15 lower,
So it doesn't have the rock. It doesn't have the rock trigger or the rock selector. Now, I haven't looked at the trigger shoe to see if it's different than the factory. And the selector, I think it's not a significant difference. I think there's one line that's not present on the selector and maybe a little arrow somewhere like on the opposite side. It's so minute. It's like, I'm not even going to fuck with it. We're moving forward.
Okay.
We're gonna long march on from this. Get it?
Look, at the end of the day, there's not that many Taiwanese T91s out there, and the ones that are out there that people bought the T91 upper, most of them dropped it on just a regular AR lower. So, the only thing that's not Taiwanese on this gun is the selector and the trigger. Obviously the lower, but it's a copy. So look, this is about as close as you're going to get without getting into just a ginormous cesspool of bullshit trying to get the selector and trigger to work. It was easy. It was quick. It's good. And I can live with a selector and a trigger not being 100% correct. It's not that big of a deal. But the buttstock's right. Everything's good on this.
Well, there's a couple other decisions we had to make. And so when we were speccing it out, talking to him, because he had a big hole open up in his schedule, because he's normally busier than a one-arm paper hanger. And it was like, yeah, man, I'm kind of dead right now because he gave all these reasons. And I was like, okay. I went back to the armory, and I was like, dude, loaded up the truck with all kinds of shit. Showed back up over there. One of the decisions we had to make with the block of the 50% lower was anodizing it. Now, most people may not really understand this, but aluminum isn't super strong. It's strong. There's different, I don't know all the numbers off the, is it 70, 75? I don't know what the number is, but when you anodize aluminum, it's like it puts like a surface hardening on it to make it a little bit harder. And it really helps, long term, the survivability of the part. Well, it's like we could hog out this lower, construct it, and then he has to send it off to someone to do the anodizing because he doesn't do the anodizing himself. And that would have added a month to the project. And it was like, I don't know, like $200 or $300.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, well, and also it would not match that upper. And so the argument was, why don't we could paint it? I call it paint, but it's like, there's a finish, like a Duracoat or whatever he's got on there. And
it's all fancy paint.
It's all paint.
Duracoat, whatever.
But he can try to match. He can try to match the upper. And it's not a perfect match, but it's pretty close.
It's pretty damn good.
And the thing is, it's like the only concern we had. He was like, well, because again, he didn't make this billet hunk of metal. We got it from like Atomic Engraving or something. And let me change lanes here. So, he's like, well, the only issue we're going to have is like when I'm hogging this thing out, if it turns out this thing is softer than it should be, then we may have to have it anodized, because the lower receiver on AR-15 is not a high stress part. So it doesn't need to be anodized realistically. Again, this is a reference gun, not we're going to go to goddamn Iraq with the gun. So, yeah. So that was the second issue. We cleared that hurdle. It seemed like the hardness was fine. The final issue was when he was going through the specs of the T91 is everything he found. He says they're overgassed. They're just extremely overgassed guns. And he's looking at the specs, and he's got to set up the buffer tube, the buffer spring and the buffer. And he set it up by the specs that they said. And I can't remember how he said how many pounds, but it's a carbine. But he was like, God damn, he's like, their spec is pretty heavy. And he goes, when you go to run this gun, if you guys are, you're using it and you start having short stroke issues, we'll cut a few more coils out of that thing. Now he function tested it and it ran. He was like, okay, but I'll tell you what, because you haven't done it yet, when you go to work, the T charging handle on this gun, dude, it is heavy as shit compared to what you're used to. It's like, whoa. So we'll have to see if that's a legit spec that'll stand the test of time. And here's the thing too. Look, dude, we buy Wolf ammo, and that shit is way underpowered. If it'll run Wolf, it'll run anything, but we're just going to have to see. This gun, we may end up having some function issues.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, if we have function issues, we'll deal with it. Like you said, this is more of a reference gun, so if it's hard charging, then it's, as long as it runs, it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's not that big of a deal. Now, I'll tell you this: I expected the gun, because I expected the gun to be heavy. I expected it to be top heavy, and I expected it to be front heavy. And I bet you most of the people that buy the T91s, the Wolf uppers, experience that. However, I was able to figure out that if you buy the 14.5-inch gun, it comes with a pencil barrel, not a heavy barrel. And you just, you pin the muzzle device on it to make it 16. Mm-hmm. Dude, this gun is not heavy at all. Like, it's not lightweight like the BCM gun. But dude, this is not like like one of those H&K pig guns.
Yeah, it's not.
You're gonna pick this? No, the Scar's not that bad. No, the Scar's not. I'll tell you what. I remember we had this guy come through where I used to work, and he was a Marine, and he showed up with one of these H&K guns, and I was like, oh yeah, let me see that. And I picked it up, and he's all proud of it. And I remember picking that gun up and being like, holy fuck, this is awful how fucking front heavy this is. This gun was a nightmare. And I was like, oh yeah, man, pretty cool. Handed it back to him. I'm like, and literally at that moment, everybody's like, the piston HK is the future. And I'm like, that may very well be, but you know what? Give it 10 goddamn years, because this is bullshit. And this T91 is legit the way we have it. It's legit, dude. This thing is not top heavy or front heavy at all.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm
glad it's done, because that was, man, that thing's been laying around for what, a year?
Oh yeah, every bit, because
it's part here, there,
Well, the range construction basically, destroyed everything on the to-do list for I mean, the range is, we've now gone into, let's see, so we're 14 months into the range now. So yeah, and I'm pretty certain we bought that before we bought the new range. So yeah, it sucked. I was just glad to get it done. So, and you know what? Look, kudos to T91 Tactical, because there's a couple times like we were missing some parts or we had questions and the 07 had questions, and I would have to reach out to them. And you can tell like they work, it's like part-time, like they answer all the questions at night, and they were Johnny on the spot. They even overnighted a part that we needed to the 07 that for some reason wasn't included in what we bought like a year ago. And I mean, if every small little firearms business would operate the way T91 does, T91 Tactical, I think they'd be a better world. I'm telling you, they're a pretty sharp little outfit, So, kudos to them. Now, you want to talk about the BREN gun?
Haven't we talked about that before? Did we talk about the BREN on the last podcast?
Did we? I don't remember. Then you know what? We don't have to talk about the BREN gun. Let's talk about your pistol.
Okay.
Your pistol's running. We got the video up last night.
Yeah, I saw it earlier this morning. Yeah, pistol's running. Life is good. Got the riser on it, which in the video it did not have a riser on the red dot, which sucked, but the riser's on it now, so it's basically complete. It's ready to go.
Yeah, it's heavy as hell. You know what? I'm curious if it's going to be. I'm curious what's heavier, the T91 or your pistol. I bet you they're comparable.
You know what? We'll have to weigh them.
The T91 is probably heavier, but I bet you it's not by much. Not by much at all. And that's going to be like, dude, really?
Well, I tell you what, the pistol has it's only a 10.5 inch barrel, but it's a heavy barrel. It's got the handguard on it is just a monster. I mean, this, I think it's Parallax Tactical is the name of the company that makes this handguard. And I love this handguard. Don't get me wrong, because I'm an old school quad rail dude. But look, quad rails are freaking heavy as hell. And this is kind of like it's kind of like a cross between the two. It's kind of like a quad rail that's got gaps in it with M-lock and QD attachments on it. But at the end of the day, most of this weight comes from the handguard. Well, plus I have a flash can on the front, and that's just a big 3.5 inch long hogged out hunk of metal. So, opposed to like a bird cage, which is, pretty light. So that's where all the weight comes from. I mean,
So you could replace that fore end in the future and really put that gun on a diet.
Oh, I could, but I'm not going to.
Yeah. Because you're cheap.
No, actually, I think I was telling you yesterday when we were talking. I just bought I just ordered a new upper this morning for a rifle build, and I was looking at the company that I bought the pistol upper from, and honestly, I thought about getting the exact same upper. I mean, identical, with the exception of it had a 16-inch barrel. And I thought, nah, I don't really. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to have a pair, but I decided not to. So I went a totally different route. I mean, literally a 180 route. And the upper that I ordered today has it's kind of like your bitch gun. It's got a lightweight key mod.
Hey, key mod, if you can save money, you know what? Save weight and save money because it's not cool anymore. I'll buy them all day.
Yeah. And anyway, but the difference is instead of 223.556, it's in 7.62 by 39.
Yeah, we had discussed that, and because you wanted to know what I thought of that, and I was like, look, here's the truth on these 7.62 by 39 AR guns, and nobody wants to admit this. Everybody's kind of snobbish about them because it's like there's all these preconceived built-in problems supposedly with mating these two platforms. And I'm not even saying that doesn't exist. But the truth is, secretly, everybody's actually curious about it. And I was like, you know what? You're a 3.9 guy. You're kind of a tinkerer type of guy. And everybody's interested in this. I'm like, go ahead and goddamn buy that upper.
Okay, look. Couple reasons why I decided to go. I'm not going to go with, all these crazy bullshit calibers that are out there for the AR platform. And when I say bullshit calibers, I'm not shitting on them. There's a lot of great calibers. I mean, personally, I think the 243 AR is just mind-blowing. But look.
That, dude, I have to admit, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
But look, when I say bullshit calibers, I'm talking about calibers that are oddball to us. We don't support them, buying ammo for them. It would be one-off ammo for that particular gun. I'm not remotely into reloading anymore. And, so I support 39 because I run the VZ58. And the truth of the matter is we got a shit ton of 223 rifles in the Armory.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I want to pick up a 223 AR, I mean, what? We got, I don't know, 8 or 9 of them to pick from?
Yeah, we're going to have suppressed stuff coming through, and it's not even.
So it's like, why do I want to build another why do I want to build a 223.556 AR? But what we don't have is a 7.62 by 39 AR. But here's the nice thing. I'm going to do a complete build. But the truth is, when that upper comes in, I can put that on any AR lower.
Here, when you mentioned the 3.9. The 3.9 AR upper. Yeah, you can. And they make magazines for it. Got me thinking. I had spoken to Bob Faxon, I don't know, a year or two ago. Yeah. And I don't know if Faxon's, because we have one of those ARAC 21 guns.
Yeah.
And they make these conversion kits. You just drop in the barrel and a bolt and a new magazine. And it's probably a spring too. But you can turn these Faxons into 3.9 guns.
We talked about buying that kit a couple years ago.
Here's the thing. I got on our website last night since you were looking at this stuff, and I could not find that kit. And I was like, shit. I hope they haven't discontinued it. Because one thing I like about the ARAC 21 is the barrel system. It's so easy to change barrels on that because the barrel has a headspace block that fits it and slides into the trunnion, then it bolts in, so you don't have to vise it in. You can literally slide it in and out, and it's like I'm curious if our ARAC 21 with a 3.9 pencil barrel, if it would make that a whole new lightweight gun.
Yeah, it might. Until you load a 30 mag rocker into it with 30 rounds of 7.62, then it's not lightweight anymore.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it doesn't use rocker mags. It uses the same mags you have to use for your build, for your 3.9 upper, because it uses the lower still uses the AR magazines.
I guess so.
Yeah, because Bob was even saying, he's like, we buy the 3.9 AR magazines in bulk so we can have them. We just pass them on to our customers at basically cost.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the thing. I've been looking around online for some 3.9 AR mags, because obviously I'm gonna need a couple.
Yeah.
So,
and I be honest with you, I'm kind of glad you're doing this because we need to get this Faxon gun because there's no way that I don't think the ARAC's going to survive. I think they've already basically gone full tilt AR, and that's where they're making all their money. And so if we want to do anything funny with these ARACs, we better get the parts now.
it might already be too late.
It might already be too late. So,
And the sad thing about that is if it is too late, it's got to be at least 2 years ago. We talked about, no, it's definitely 2 years ago. We talked about buying that kit. We should have done it then.
Well, you know what? We've been busy with the range, so just too much going on.
There's a lot of shit going on, But yeah,
hey, I have some interesting news for you on the political front. I don't know if you heard this or not.
What's that?
Did you hear Ruth Bader Ginsburg's in the hospital?
Yeah, I heard she broke like 3 ribs or something like that.
Yeah.
I told you, I've been listening to the news for the last 3 days. I've heard it all.
Oh, you know what? That's right. I can't surprise you with anything.
But look, here's the thing with Ginsburg. She's old. And I don't wish her any harm. I hope for a speedy recovery. I do. But when old people break bones like that and go into the hospital, it's real easy to get pneumonia and, some serious issues happen. So I'm not wishing any ill will on her. I hope she has a speedy recovery and she comes out of it fine. But I'm telling you, from a political point of view, especially since the Republicans just picked up a bunch of seats in the Senate, if something does happen to her, oh man, the Democrats are going to be crying big time.
Yeah, Corker will be gone. Flake is gone. We don't need Manchin anymore. And, again, I don't wish her any ill. But the fact she had to go to the hospital, she's like 85 years old. Man, that's serious. Because like you said, it's like...
Look, anytime someone in their 80s plus has to go to the hospital, they're susceptible to pneumonia, they're susceptible to staph, they're susceptible, their body's old and weak, and it's already, weakened from the injury, and they're, at their age, they're susceptible to things, and again, I'm not wishing her ill will. I'm just pointing out that, if something does happen to her right now, not a good time. This would be justice number 3 for the Don.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll change the balance of the court for the next 60 years.
Oh, 60 years. Oh, dude, bullshit. You overstating that one. No, you can get about 20, depending on.
No, but
Thomas isn't going to be in there forever.
I understand.
Thomas is getting up there. Yeah, you're lucky. You'll be lucky to get another 15 out of Thomas.
Yeah, but look at the youth on this court right now. The 2 that Obama picked, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. They're still relatively young.
Well, I'll tell you what. Wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. I'm trying to think. There was a lot. It didn't get covered in the mainstream media. I'm trying to remember which one it is. Is it Sotomayor? One of those 2 justices that Obama picked has some fairly significant health issues that is worrisome for a long-term seat hold.
Really?
Yeah. I think one of the women has, I think she has like pretty severe diabetes or something.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they don't talk about it, but it's like, and there's
Sotomayor's like in her mid-60s. She's not that old.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah. And the thing is, go ahead.
Kagan, which was Obama's other pick, she's in her late 50s. She's not, I don't think she's even 60 yet. So, I mean, they're both fairly young. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh are in their 50s. Hell, Gorsuch is younger than me. I think Kavanaugh's my age.
Kavanaugh might be my age.
You know,
is Kavanaugh 50? Is Kavanaugh even 50?
No, he's over 50. He's in his early 50s. He's like my age. He's like 53, 54. Gorsuch is like 50, 51. Gorsuch is younger than you. No, he's older than you, but not by much.
Okay. I'm old enough to be a Supreme Court justice. My day's coming. I'm gonna rock that robe.
But look, Breyer and Ginsberg are in their 80s.
Is Breyer still on the court?
Yep.
I don't even remember. No disrespect to Stephen Breyer. Hold on. Let's see here. Let me look at this real quick.
But I think he's in his early 80s. So him and Ginsberg.
He's 80.
Next to go.
Yeah, Breyer. According to this, Breyer is 80 years old.
Okay, so Well,
I'll tell you what. Let me help some of the listeners at home on as far as the Supreme Court, because the Republicans have a majority. We do. I'm going to say we. I mean, I'm a Republican, but there's some shit Republicans don't like me on. Chief Justice Roberts is not a lock on any of these votes. Chief Justice Roberts could very easily turn into a David Souter. And what I mean by that is George Herbert Walker Bush, I'm pretty sure, appointed Souter. And what happened was Souter basically went left. And when they came up with the Heritage Foundation and maybe the AEI, but Heritage Foundation, they came up with the list of judges for Trump to pick from. There's been this mantra that's been floating around the think tanks for about a decade. And the mantra was no more suitors. Because this is why they freaked out over Kavanaugh and why they're freaking out over some of this stuff. And Kavanaugh's not like a radical right-wing guy. The reality is when the Republicans appoint a justice, it usually goes the following way. They'll report a conservative, and then they end up appointing a guy that's really kind of like he's going to end up being like a Souter, and he could vote the other way. So, like, Republicans never really win. They always give one to the other side. And nobody ever wants to talk about that, but it's the truth. And, I think Chief Justice Roberts is not. Like, for example, if birthright citizenship, I don't think Roberts is going to vote for that, for pulling that out of 14. I think Roberts is. He's a likable guy, but I would not put my life in his hands. I just put it that way. I wouldn't put my life in his hands. I just would not.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean,
we need one more.
Yeah, because right now the
is it 5-4?
I think it's 5-4 right now. And the thing is, like I was saying, if Trump can replace Ginsberg, then that makes it 6-3.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty solid. And then you don't need Roberts.
That's solid as hell. But then you get to Breyer, who's 80. I mean, if Trump gets reelected in 2020, that means he's got 6 more years. Okay, he's got 2 more years here. Then if he gets reelected, that's 4 more. Total was 6 years. You've got 2 justices in their 80s, and they're both left-leaning justices.
Yeah.
I mean, again, man, I'm telling you, you have the potential to switch the balance of the court to the right for a long, long time. Now, look, Kavanaugh's not a hardcore right-winger. He could very easily vote left. I mean, he's a real middle-of-the-road guy, which actually I kind of like about him personally, because I think you do need a justice that's middle of the road, opposed to,
I think it depends. I think we've have so much middle of the road compromise here. You're not making any decisions. Nobody's really standing up for any principles, and that's why things are so fucked up.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I think the real question is going to be, and again, nobody wants to talk about this. If Ginsberg's seat falls to Trump, the arguments, I'm real curious what the Democrats are going to say about Ruth Bader Ginsburg in history. Because the truth is, everybody expected, they were all nice. They were all polite. They were all deferential. But there was a few blips out of the Obama administration where it's like, hey, baby, you're going to step down, right? Because
the smart money would have been her to step down when Obama was president. That way you secure her seat.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't do it. And the argument is, it's like, was it about her because she doesn't want to give up the seat and she just loves being there? Or she's such a Hillary fan, was she waiting for Hillary to cross the finish line to do that whole women's optic powwow, slap each other on the back bullshit, the point, replace, and have the press conference? And I wonder if the night that Donald Trump won election, I can't help but wonder if the most ill, sickly feeling person that night turns out to have been Ruth Bader Ginsburg, looking at her TV going, holy fuck.
Oh, hey, it very well might have been. I mean, look, everyone thought Hillary was going to win, except for me. Even you thought she was going to win.
Of course I did. I was like, I'm not going to stay up and watch this and watch this bullshit election coverage and pretend that, like, I even told you this. I said, like, and pretend like, oh yeah, fucking Republicans are going to carry Pennsylvania and fucking Michigan. It's like, we need Pennsylvania and Michigan. Fuck you. I'm going to bed. I'm not going to, whatever happens, but I don't need to sit around here and pretend like this is going to fucking happen.
Well, I did stay up and watch it because I predicted he would carry him. And as the numbers were rolling in, I was walking around with the freaking big wood.
I woke up the next day and like checked the media and started talking to people in the office, and it was like, what the fuck's going on? Like,
yeah, you woke up the next day and checked your email, and all you could hear was me screaming in the background and say, I told you, motherfucker!
America, bitch! So, hey, speaking of America, your friend and mine, Jim Acosta, Jim Acosta me, has finally jumped the shark at the White House and got his hard press pass pulled.
Yeah. Well,
and
I love. Wow. CNN released a press release, and they were talking to a bunch of people after this happened, and it's amazing. I mean, it's totally amazing to listen to those son of a bitches. And people say, oh, CNN's not fake news. And it's just like, yeah, they just told like 18 fucking lies in like a 3-minute segment. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look, did Jim Acosta deserve to have his press pass pulled? Well, yeah, actually he did.
Jim Acosta is a sociopath. Let's just be real. Jim Acosta isn't interested in reporting the news or being the White House reporter, Jim Acosta is trying to make a name for himself so he can be the next Oprah or have his own TV show or something. It's all about him. And so he gets up there and he basically swings at the fences trying to beat Trump all the time, and his behavior is getting so out of control you can't ignore it anymore. He's no longer even functioning. He's keeping other reporters from talking. And here's the thing. Everybody in the White House press corps knows this. There's people up there that hate Trump. I mean, they all fucking hate Trump.
Oh, yeah.
But they're like, Jim Acosta is a dickhead. And they're like, it's making us all look bad.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't admit it publicly.
Yeah.
But it's all fucking through D.C. Everybody knows this is true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You know, I think he should never get his press pass back for the White House.
I mean, you know, look, I agree. I mean, I totally agree. Will he get it back? He probably will, but no.
He probably will.
But I think you're right. But hey, look, let me change directions here because I want to mention this.
Yes.
You know, I am the meme king.
Okay.
I live and die.
I put my hand on the mute button right now.
No, nothing you need to mute. I
no
love
boycotts are coming. Okay.
I love memes. I have hundreds of them in my phone. So when I'm talking to someone and they say something, I've got a meme to counteract it. You know, I'm that way. Well, there's a meme here I came across, and it's a Twitter post overlaid over a picture, and the person who tweeted it's scratched out. You can't see their name, and I'll send you the meme. It says obviously owns an AR-15 because he's compensating for something. If anyone feels the need to hold one of these weapons of war, it is because they need to take the sting out of the size of their little winkies. And the picture is the hedgehog looking over his shoulder, holding an AR-15 going, what? Who the hedgehog is? That's Ron Jeremy.
Oh God!
What?
Oh God! That's awful. Fucking goddamn porn AR-15 reference. How in the hell did you pull that shit off? We'll put that in the comments section.
Dude,
okay, because you know you like to do the memes and I like to do the police blotters. And so last week, the last episode, I gave you a selection.
Yes.
Of different crimes, but this week one has risen to the top.
Uh-oh.
And I'm not even going to really go to the crime like a guy killed his wife. Surprise. And so, you know, he's got a defense team and he's saying he didn't kill his wife died. But then, you know, they racket and stack the charges, murder, you know, lying to the police, tampering with evidence, because he cleaned up the crime scene. So his defense, I love this. His defense is, he said, my wife told me on her deathbed, she said, please clean up the house and don't leave a mess after I die. So he didn't tamper with a crime scene. She died. It happened to be messy, but she told him to clean up the mess.
So he was honoring her last wish, and he just happened to like scrub the whole house down with bleach.
Apparently. And It's just like, you know, it's like, you know, like you see shit like this, and you know there's a lawyer sitting here somewhere, and you don't know if he's like a public defender or whether he's in private practice taking this pro bono, trying to make a name, kind of like Casey Anthony's attorney, or whether he's like, you know, this high dollar, you know, whatever dude. But it's like, you know, yeah, you work hard, you go to school your whole life, you go to law school, you pass I can't remember the test to get into law school. They get into law school, you get through law school, you graduate law school, you pass your bar, then you get admitted into all these courts, like the state Supreme Court or whatever court, or the federal courts, and maybe you pass other bars, and you do all this other kind of shit, and you try to become the king of your profession so you can stand before a judge and say, the victim ordered my client to clean up her own murder scene, Your Honor, so he didn't tamper with evidence. And it's like, I kind of think of it like the guys that go to like Juilliard or go to all these fancy acting schools and end up doing a commercial for like suppositories. You know, you're just like, this was your dream in life, and you got to go up there and look like an asshole. It's like, fuck me, what am I doing here? Dude, I hope you are getting paid. So, all right. Well, this wraps up episode 114 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see any pictures or photographs or links to stories and the things we discussed, including the Hedge Hog MEME, please go to our website, John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
See you later.